Dear students, now we are going to discuss about the lesson The Landscape of the Soul. Let us see the introduction about the lesson. This lesson was written by Nathaniel Traore. This chapter, Landscapes of the Soul, is about how different the Chinese art form is from the European art form. The writer uses two stories to make a contrast. European art is about reproducing an actual view, whereas Chinese art is about not creating a real landscape. European art is an artist's way to let viewers show exactly what he wants them to see in the landscape. Chinese art is the artist's spiritual and inner voice where you can travel from any point and it lets the viewer create a path for their imagination. Let us see the summary of the lesson. A painter named Wu Dozi, who lived in the 8th century, was assigned to decorate a palace wall by the Tang Emperor Yanzong. It was his last painting. The painter hid his work behind the screen so the only emperor would see it. The emperor, upon looking at the painting, admired many things into that painting, like discovering forest, high mountains, waterfalls, floating clouds, men on hilly paths, and birds in flight. The painter then made him look at a cave in the painting which was at the foot of the mountain and compared it with a living spirit. As the painter clapped his hands, the entrance of the cave opened, and he let the emperor know how beautiful the inside of the cave was, and he asked him to show all this to him. The painter entered the cave, and the entrance closed behind him. The emperor couldn't enter the cave. As the emperor was greatly surprised, the painting vanished from the wall. After that, the painter was never seen again. These stories played an important role in classical education in China. Similarly, like the books of Confucius and Zhuangzi are full of such stories as they help the master to help and guide his followers in this right direction. These stories were considered to be deeply revealing of the spirit just like the art. There was another famous story in contrast to the previous one where the painter wouldn't paint the eye of a dragon. He feared that the dragon would fly out from the painting. It was one of the stories from the many others which came from a medieval country in Western Europe. During the 15th century in Antwerp, a master blacksmith named Quentin Metsys falls in love with the painter's daughter. Since the father was not accepting the relationship between of his profession, the blacksmith sneaked into the painter's studio and painted a fly on his latest panel. The painting was so real that the master tried to hit the fly away before he realized that it was just a painting. The blacksmith was accepted into the studio as a trainee. He married the painter's daughter and later became one of the famous painters of his age. The two stories told above are trying to illustrate the form of art in two different regions. In Europe, the art is perfect and like an illusion which resembles something. In Asia, the art gives an essence of inner life and spirit. As in the Chinese story, the artist reveals the true meaning of his work to the emperor, who rules over his territory but did not know the way within. The emperor only saw the outer appearance of the wall painting. The work was mysterious and though, which means something which has both parts, is what the artist did. As the painting was gone after the artist reached the caves, the motive was fulfilled that some work is beyond material appearance. The Chinese landscape painting is not made with a real viewpoint, but it is a representation of artist's thoughts. The Western painting in Europe is a figurative art form. The European painter paints a landscape to show you a specific scene of the landscape, whereas the Chinese painter doesn't choose a real viewpoint. You can enter the painting from any point and can travel anywhere where your thoughts and imagination take you. The Chinese artist wants you to travel by creating your own path and then come out in a relaxed moment. In China, this mode of seeing a painting is more enjoyable. A horizontal scroll is a form where one section of painting is opened one by rolling it up to move on the other side. It creates a dimension which is not practiced in any other form of artwork. It requires both mental and physical participation of the viewer. The Chinese painter wants you to enter his mind and see the painting from his thoughts. The landscape created by Chinese artists is spiritual, inner, and of conceptual or abstract space. The Chinese concept of art is also expressed as sansui, which also means mountain water. It is used together to represent the word landscape. The two complementary poles of an image reflect the Taoist view. The mountain in the landscape is yang, which means to reach vertically towards heaven, stable, warm, and dry in the sun, whereas the water is yin, which respective and feminine aspect of universal energy. The yang is active and masculine and the opposite of yin. There is a third essential element which is a middle void, which is the place where they interact. This middle void can be compared to pranayama, which means to breathe in, retain, and breathe out. Here, the suspension of the breath is the void in this meditation process. It is an essential part as nothing can happen without it. Hence, the white unpainted space in Chinese landscape is equally important. The middle void is where a man finds an important role. Man is the channel of communication in the space between heaven and earth, which are the two poles of the universe. Man's presence is essential. It is not being lost or suppressed due to high peaks, but he is the eye of the landscape. This is the summary of the lesson, the landscape of the soul. Dear students, I hope you all understand the summary. Thank you.